Here we go.
Hello, all you dreamers and creamers out there. How's it going today? Patty, what's up? Welcome back.
Doing great. Like the new intro.
How's law school?
Dude,
Law
it's
school.
kicking my ass, man. One more year. That's
You were missed.
something else.
Light at the end of the tunnel.
Yeah.
Deadlights.
And then there's the bar exam.
Deadlights at the end of the tunnel.
Oh,
Like it.
I like what you
like
did there.
Yeah.
Boy.
You do.
Boy, have I got some opinions this week.
That was an it reference.
I am pissed off. I fucking hate scary movies, even more than I've ever hated them before.
I don't know.
The movie we're talking about is the highly anticipated It Chapter 2. Stephen King's novel come to life on the big screen. What a piece of shit that guy is. Fuck you all. I hate it
At least he,
so much.
at least he showed his face this time.
Spoiler alert.
Yeah.
If you guys really wanted to see the movie...
If you don't want to look at that
it's too
ugly
late.
fucking guy, well,
yeah, he's the
you
scariest
will,
part
yeah,
of the whole thing.
he
Pulled
is
a Stan
quite
Lee.
horrifying. Because
Yeah.
this movie made me feel a certain type of way. I know it made Wolf feel a certain type of way, and I guarantee Patty thought it was fucking great.
I mean,
If
let me hear what you have to say
hold
first.
on. Before I go, if you had to, like, gun to your head, here's a fucking dictionary or a thesaurus or whatever, you gotta pick one word to describe what you thought of this film. What would that fucking word be?
It's put me on the spot. For me, satisfying.
Whoa, satisfying.
Yes.
Like
Sexual.
corner, yeah, whatever.
Alright.
No, for real. I mean, like we can get into it, but as I said last time, I'm a huge Stephen
course.
King fan,
Nothing wrong
and
with
it is still one of my favorite books of all time, easily my favorite horror story of all time, and I think that something I'm sure you're gonna bring up, but his books, and especially this book, is a supernatural fantasy horror thriller. So it's not all about horror; it's about the story.
Come on, man.
Good versus
Oh my God.
evil.
Come on.
All that stuff. So with that in mind, I was satisfied. But why don't you tell me how you feel, Eric?
That was the most frustrating movie I've ever watched in my entire life. There was, and I say that not because it was 3 hours of terrible film. No, it wasn't because of that. It was frustrating because there would be something really good. I thought we'll get into the specific scenes. I thought it opened really strong. I thought the first 30 minutes, for the most part, were pretty good, and I was like, this is going well so far. The middle hour in this.
Yeah. Oh yeah. By the way, everybody, strap in. You get 3 hours of this movie.
Which, like,
Fuck
first
you.
of all, I've done long movies. It's not something that typically bothers me, but it was very unnecessary. It was very poorly paced. The CGI was horrible. They have so much money and they spent it on fucking, he said the majority of the budget went to de-aging those little fucking kids, and the kids should not have really even been in the movie that much. They spent too much fucking time on those scenes. There was a lot of good scenes in the early parts. The best parts were the parts where it wasn't CGI. Every time where they were doing just like visual horror and like lingering, and you're like when Eddie will go, or when he's walking in the basement, that scene, the opening scene again, was fucking incredible. But it was just really frustrating for me because one, the humor, while it was good, and we'll get into the specifics of like who was good with the humor, they undermined so many fucking moments in that movie with Evil Dead horror, and it was not the time to do it. And even though I was like
that's fair.
laughing,
That's fair.
I was so pissed off at the director for not picking a fucking, just stick to the one lane, dude. It pissed me off so much. I fucking hate that director. I think he had the holy grail of source material. I think it was well shot. I think the actors were great. But what the fuck were they doing with the tone of that movie?
Yeah, that's fair. That's a fair assessment. Again, like, satisfying for me because I think it did a much better job than the 90s TV miniseries of bringing my
100%.
favorite like horror story to life.
Yeah,
and because
doubt.
of that
No
was
doubt.
satisfying.
Yeah.
But
Way
I will
way
agree with
better
you.
than part two.
There was a time for comedy, like the Chinese restaurant scene was awesome. There was a time for like pure unbridled horror. And there were sometimes random jokes that were unnecessary, just put in there randomly. Some of that's scripting, but hopefully you think the director would have the liberty or have the common sense to have less of that, especially towards the end.
There were a few gags in there that were so poorly timed and like some of it was like ad-libbed humor by what's his name, which is
Bill Hader.
Which he was amazing.
Fantastic.
We'll get to that.
Yeah.
But it really pissed me off, the movie, and the ending, the last 30 minutes, I thought was absolutely terrible. Pure all CGI. We'll get into the specifics of it in a little bit, but Wolf, break it down.
I will concur with my esteemed colleague, Mr. Russo. The word that comes to mind most for me is anger.
Yeah.
One, because I'll never get into horror movies. It just will be impossible for me to like them.
Yeah.
I shook in my seat way too many times. I hate that feeling. It's not a rush for me. But number two, it has a lot to do with just bad. The de-aging phenomenon is real. I know already, and I hate The Irishman because of it.
And the kids looked weird.
Just weird, like the fat kid, like looking
looked
like
horrible.
His face is fake.
Like they would have been better. Just okay. It's next summer. They look a little bit older. They're fucking kids. Like people understand that people age, and
right.
yes, they should have probably shot some of this stuff a year ago.
Oh, do you think?
Yeah.
Duh. If they're gonna tie all this in, it doesn't take that much more to get it done a year before.
Sure.
To the CGI point, you have to really go back deep into the 90s for this one, but all I could think of was the Scorpion King. Just god awful.
The monsters were so bad and so poorly done.
Most of the monsters were so bad and so poorly done.
Most of them. Well, the ones that were CGI.
Yeah.
There was a couple practical effects monsters that were good, and again, Pennywise, Sarsgaard, he literally,
great.
Dude, he brought every scene he was. I felt bad for some of the shit they had him do because they were making him look like a fucking moron, even though he was killing it.
It was 3 hours. I would guarantee you he's less than 20 minutes of screen time. Which is sad. Well, not when he's not, CGI.
Sure. Yeah, correct. He was a lot of CGI.
When he's at his best.
I will say the amount that they used him, that didn't really. I mean, it was 3 hours, so I guess he could have been in it a little bit more. But I thought he's like the great white shark in Jaws, where he wasn't overdone, and when he talks, everyone in the theater just stops and just wants to. It reminded me a lot of Heath Ledger as the Joker.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
just like the gravity.
Both clowns.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a terrible joke. But no, that's fair. And there were some scenes where the monster clown was objectively terrifying. The funhouse scene, when you see it, that was a fucking terrifying moment. Perfectly done. But yes, there were some of the monster gags that were a little bit silly,
I think
farcical.
I think where we're going with the criticism is it's not to say that there weren't good parts, and there were
100%.
My favorite thing about the whole thing is the casting.
Oh yeah,
it's
perfect,
fucking spot on.
Yeah.
Except for McAvoy. He's the worst actor in the world.
So I
thought he was good.
He was screaming like Arnold Schwarzenegger.
I thought the Ben character was a little bit didn't recognize
Josh
him.
Hartnett?
Yeah, Bizarro Josh Hartnett. Yeah, no. I don't know who he is. I don't know where he came from, but he should go back there.
Well,
whatever it might be.
So funny you said that. I agree because I'm a huge McAvoy fan, but he was stuck as the little boy from Split or something like that. He had the same accent.
Awful.
Yeah,
why don't they cast an American? I understand. There's.
He can do a good American accent.
Do it. I don't know what the fuck happened. I think he was overacting a little bit. But who's the Mike, right? The guy that was there the whole time.
Mike Hanlon, yeah.
Mike Hanlon, yeah. So I don't know the actor that plays him.
I've seen him before in some things.
I thought he was awful. I thought he overacted, and his role was so important to bringing the movie together. And I thought they just should have went with something they had all this money and they spent it. And don't get me wrong, the money that they did spend, Hader, Jessica Chastain was great.
To be fair, though, I think that Mike Hanlon's the actor who played him was totally hamstrung by some of the worst lines that they adapted.
Yeah.
I mean, that last 45 minutes, we're not going to get into it. For spoilers, we might. But I mean, they were trying to put together a supernatural finish to a book that just does not translate to the TV, to the big screen, right?
I actually disagree.
Really?
I disagree. I think the way
I don't know about that.
The way all that extra stuff was fine, It was just some of the stuff with him. He was overacting to me a lot, especially like early in the movie where he's like, "Where are you guys going? We need to all stay together and be a team." And
Sure.
it was just like, come on, man, what the fuck are you talking
But
about?
those are his lines, right? Like I mean, like I don't know how he would have said those lines in a way that would not have been
I'll
gimmicky.
tell you what, you put fucking Denzel Washington in that role.
He's
would've
not
fucking
gonna
nailed
do
that line.
it
Okay,
chapter
but my
2.
point is they could have
He's
got
also 20 years older than
they could've
Mike
got
Michael B.
Hanlon.
Jordan? I thought that was Michael B.
If
Jordan.
it was Michael B. Jordan, it would have been fucking amazing.
I think this about him. I feel like I wasn't as upset about the character as you guys because when I watched the first one a couple weeks ago, he got about as much of the play of the whole thing as the rest. So like,
Yeah.
the scary parts for him were very small in both movies. He
most-
just ends up being a blubbering idiot by the end of it.
Yeah.
Like his dialogue.
And I will
I'm
say
gonna,
that
whatever
You're
he's
right.
gonna do after everything is all said and done, like fuck.
Like
Yeah.
clearly they
Step it up.
prioritized 2 or 3 roles, and were like, these are going to be the most important roles in the film, and the actors that they cast just weren't as good, and that's just the reality.
Well, you know, and maybe, I think there was only 1 or 2 bad actors. I thought Eddie's was also cast really well too.
No,
he was
he's awesome.
he's
He's
a
the
great
most
character.
perfect.
That's
He was
the,
really
from
well
kid to
done.
adult.
That's the guy from Sinister too.
Yep.
He's fucking awesome in that.
Yep, he's great. He was in that
in The
First
Wire,
Man
he's
movie.
been in a lot of
Yeah,
good
Yeah,
things.
he's
no,
good.
he was great, well cast.
And their banter between him and
And Hater.
Yeah,
was
yeah.
classic.
And I'll tell you one thing that the miniseries from the '90s did better than the series we just watched, or the 2-part movie we just watched, was the character of Bowers.
Oh my God.
Bowers as an adult.
I actually was just forgetting. That was the worst thing ever.
So bad,
Yeah,
man.
it was literally Kid Rock from the movie Joan Dirt.
Kid Rock.
It was so
That's
fucking
great.
terrible. And
that
again,
that was
The movie was long enough to make him cool, but they didn't spend any time on it,
The-
nor his like,
Yeah.
Bowers
I'm
in
sorry.
my room.
monsters that he's hanging
We
out
call
with,
this the
like-
real movie reviews.
Yeah.
From this point on, if you haven't seen the movie, we're gonna have to talk about spoilers.
Yeah,
There's
so
really no way
that's-
not to.
this
It's
is
a
not-
17-hour film. Go see the fucking movie. When you do, come back and
Yeah,
listen from here.
or
But-
don't. I mean,
Yeah, or
Yeah,
don't.
up
can-
to you guys. I
can
mean,
cut it out here.
I'd
I will
recommend
say
it, but-
this, I would say if you've seen part 1, you'll just see part 2. You'll get something.
you want the
out of it.
closure.
Yeah, you definitely need that closure. But
And there were
yeah.
some enough things about it Part 2 that you would have liked about it Part 1 to make it worth finishing,
Put it
right?
this way, it reminded me of, in Entourage when they make Median, and they're like, there's a brilliant movie here somewhere. All I could think was if you take part 1 and part 2 and make it a 3-hour movie, right? That you probably could edit it in a way where it would really, really run smooth, almost like the book. 'Cause the book does jump back and forth a little bit. And I
Like
think
one big movie, you mean?
they're going to. They're definitely going to make one big movie, I think, at some point. That's what they said. They're going to do
Huh.
like a director's cut where they edit both films together.
I don't know if I'd like that.
Yeah, well, it couldn't be fucking worse than what we just watched.
Yeah.
No,
So,
that's true.
I mean, you gotta remember, so like in like the book, and this is
all
not
right,
spoilers.
we're on to spoilers now.
Yeah, I mean, like,
Turn
well,
us off,
in the
turn us off
book,
at
like
the
this,
end.
Bang, boom, you're
like,
fired.
yeah, right. In the book, like the kids, like when they're kids, they fight it and defeat it, and the adults fight and kill it, like within like a chapter of each other. So they're going back and forth between the adults and the kids
Exactly.
every chapter, which
So,
means it's very interwoven.
What I just said is what they should do. They
But
should
I don't think
make
that
a
would-
dedicated film. Yes, they could do it
Oh,
though.
yeah,
with it
They were
couldn't-
doing it in this one. It just was all part
yeah,
2.
Yeah,
Right.
It
And
could have been both.
and the
movies.
pacing,
And I thought that
it
didn't work very
fucked
well,
the
which
whole
is why-
movie up
Terrible.
going to the kids. So I think
Like the opening scene is Stan killing himself in like the book,
yeah,
right?
exactly.
Like that's
and it goes from adult. And the problem was with this one, they didn't cast the adults. They made the first movie without having the adults, so they couldn't have the adults in the first movie.
Stan
right?
was irrelevant. He was gonna be,
Yeah,
but
and
I
we
guess he
always
was well
knew that.
cast.
So
Oh, favorite shot of the movie, the puzzle piece. That was a really cool shot. Like
I
don't
was
know.
already angry at that point.
No.
I didn't really care.
No.
I will say, okay,
If you watch it, you'll like it.
I like this movie has me like fucking fired
I
up.
can
'cause
tell,
there's
man.
so many things in it. Opening scene, I loved it. It was dark as shit. So obviously you had like the two gay guys walk in.
Right. That's right out of the book.
Right out of the book, yeah. So I like the scene. It was super dark, like fucked up, like
Yeah.
honestly
Totally.
the scariest shit in the whole. I was like, damn, this
Yeah,
is
yeah,
like
yeah.
fucking dark.
Totally.
Sick, right?
Yeah.
And then throws him over. I thought they brilliantly shot it. I liked how the CG. So the thing about Pennywise, the CGI from a distance, it looked a lot more more terrifying.
Sure.
Awesome scene. I do think that. So let's just talk about it, right? So with Bill Hader's character, he was clearly gay.
Right.
I thought he needed, especially with the opening scene, his fear was that he was gay, right? So
Right.
I
Coming
think
out.
before the final battle, there should have been a moment for that character. Like, they kept, like, hinting at it, and they had the scene with Pennywise where he was like, I'm gonna fucking tell everyone. So I think he should have fucking owned it before they went in there.
But I don't think that his fear was other people knowing he was gay. I think it was him like admitting to himself that
Yeah,
that was how he
but
felt.
still, but-
so it's not about like him telling. I think that all the friends or having that
But just-
moment. They
but
would
just saying
would
it
they
out
care.
loud, like,
But you get that
yeah.
moment at the end where it's quite clearly alluded to when he carves the thing into
Yeah,
the.
I don't know. I just.
But
thought-
I agree with you.
But because that was part of his fear, he didn't do it before
Sure.
they fought, so he didn't address his fear. I thought it was a little shaky in the storytelling. I
Yeah.
thought Bill Hader was fucking amazing.
Dude, he was great.
Like,
he is
truly.
a talent,
By far the
man.
best
He was the best part of the
whole
movie.
Yeah.
It was worth seeing it for him.
Yes.
He had
like-
some of the best. He had the best lines. Period.
Yeah.
And delivered them perfectly.
No, he was on fire, and you
yeah.
could even see the other actors. Like it was almost like watching them get outboxed.
Totally.
Like, they had these looks on their faces when he would talk. Like, God damn, this fucking guy.
Best lines.
No, it's like if you started watching Bill Hader in the early years, like SNL and some of the early Apatow movies, like
Yeah.
you could tell he was talented,
Oh,
but
he's
he
got-
always was such a
He's
goofball.
got the
Sure.
skills.
And then he gets into stuff like Barry. Like,
Yeah.
if you guys have watched
Oh,
Barry.
yeah, Barry's
If you
great.
haven't,
Fantastic.
anyone listening, watch Barry.
Yeah, he's on
Fucking
fire.
Awesome show.
This is gonna. I,
That showcased his acting ability to get into a role. like
I
this, for
think
sure.
this
Getting
is
Sarah Marshall.
going to.
Yeah.
This is going to set
Shipwrecked.
him up. I don't know for what, but it's going to put him in the spotlight to get some sort of really big role that could really fucking change it. Because he's a great actor, but he's not like a superstar.
Right.
Which now, you look at a guy like Chris Pratt. Like, why can't Bill Hader? He's probably a better actor than Chris
Yeah.
Pratt. You know what I'm saying?
Jessica Chastain was great. It's a weird role for her to be in, right? Like she's like an A-list actress.
Those Chastain, man.
I was really looking forward to seeing those. I feel like they would have brought it out in this movie. They just
they
kept them in a cage.
I felt like they really didn't give her that much.
I mean,
to do.
yeah.
But the one thing I
Boy,
will say.
can she pick her men? Huh?
So-
Jesus Christ.
Yeah.
Do you guys want to talk about the end of the movie, the finale part, or anything?
Yeah, we-
any other
Start,
scenes?
starting where?
We've been dancing
Okay.
around it. We might as well
Yeah,
jump
all right.
into it.
So, I would say like from when they go to the cave,
Okay.
like when they go for the encounter, which is there's spoiler alert. There's about 45 minutes left when they go to the cave, so it's really
It's
not the end
over.
of the movie.
Right at the end of the tunnel.
But
Wait.
let's just fucking talk about what the fuck was the Pennywise final form.
Scorpion King.
I fucking So I will say this: as bad as It Chapter 2, the 1990 version, it gets so made fun of because they did the spider, which in the book is the form, right?
Yeah.
This
Yeah.
movie was like, oh, we're not going to do the spider. They should have fucking done the spider because
Yes.
this
Yes.
was a spider with Pennywise as the body. It is bad as it sounds, if not worse.
It's literally
Scorpion
I
King.
can
Yeah.
say the Scorpion
Yeah.
King as many times as people need to.
It
know.
is-
Look at the rocks.
Yeah.
It's the worst thing I've ever-
Yeah, if you ever like played Diablo 2, it was Duriel.
Duriel.
I like literally. That's
There
that's
we
what you're
go.
talking
That's a
about.
throwback.
I mean,
Love it.
great video game.
I
but
was very, very.
It was so
upset.
bad. It was
So-
Just these.
so
bigger
let's set the
and
scene, right?
fucking-
In the book, they chase the monster into the sewer,
Yeah.
right? And like the team splits up. There's like all these eggs. So like it's laid eggs. I mean thousands of more
Yeah.
eggs. And Beverly and Ben go and kill all the eggs while the other three guys go and deal with it, right? And when they go there, basically they reach into its stomach, pull out and squeeze its heart and kill it.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, Eddie dies, right? So like that's how he dies in the first place. But there's no like basically telling him that they're not scared of him
Yeah,
until he
you're-
shrinks
you're
into
small. And
a little
I will
like
say
shrimp of a
that-
spider.
So
I-
in the book that doesn't happen.
No,
They don't
no,
go,
no.
You're a clown.
Yeah.
You're a clown.
Yeah, they don't beat him by not being scared of it. They beat it by fucking killing it, and like they overcome the fear of this giant
All right.
spider.
Yeah.
But
They
like
understand that it's not actually real.
correct,
It feeds off their fear.
right,
I-
and the
Stab
ritual
it.
of Chud is not like holding hands and talking. Whatever that chant was, I erased it from my memory because it was so dumb.
It
to
was
tr-
the chant from Black Panther. Bombay!
Yeah, it was.
Chuck on
It was bizarre, and to make it reveal that was just dumb. The ritual of Chud was like basically where they go into their own smokestack and like breathe in fumes and like hallucinate to the start of it ever coming to the
So
planet.
what you're saying essentially is it's Batman Begins, which also is about
A little
facing the
bit.
fears and the fear
to an extent,
toxin.
right? So
that would have been better if that was the big twist.
So that's what that feels.
so I mean, it wasn't the movie's finest hour.
What a ridiculous.
Yeah, I like
ending. I
when
was so
Pennywise
bummed
was
out.
melting into the wall. You could see Sarsgaard's face, like, I can't believe this is how it ended. This is who wrote it. He looked like John Leguizamo in fucking Spawn
Yes.
as what's that character's name? The fucking clown, fat clown. It like
yes.
literally turned into like a fat baby
It was
clown.
kind of like the thing from Total Recall,
Yeah.
the stomach.
Clown baby, basically.
Yeah. Yeah.
Wait, start the reactor.
Start the reactor.
Man.
Yes, it was. I thought that was just silly, like more silly than the movie had led on up until that
Yeah.
point. It could have been such like I would have been okay with like a gory, like as gory as the rest of the movie
Sure,
type of
sure.
Yeah,
end
I
for
just,
it. Like,
man, practical effects to me, like, if anyone's seen the movie The Thing and you want to look at creatures, like, that's how it's done. They have better technology now. They could still fucking do stuff like that, but they choose not to because they're lazy and they're more focused on the jump scares, which when I went into this movie, I said, please do not be 3 hours of jump
And
scares.
that I saw them happen, and I was just every time it happened, I was
feel
like,
my-
I could see you dying
You could
a
feel
little
my
bit.
love.
Oh, yeah, right.
Don't get me wrong. Some are okay. So stuff that I did like. So I'm destroying this movie. It's not a bad movie. I'm not
Okay,
saying
I'm
that.
glad you had to clarify
Yeah.
that.
This one, it pissed me off because it could have been a great
Sure.
movie. Fuck.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's so frustrating. But the kid's dying. I liked all three of those scenes. Every
Yep.
time a kid got bit by Pennywise, I thought it was really well
Every
done.
one of those scenes were great.
Those are probably the three like scariest, darkest scenes in the movie.
I would agree with that. Yeah.
And the best scenes.
that's because we got to see him do his thing.
Yeah,
the way
as a
he's
human.
been doing
Because he
it.
as a
feeds up
human.
As he's supposed to be.
the bleacher scene. I should have said that first
That was the
before.
be- that was my
that was
favorite.
terrifying. And
Yeah.
the thing
I
that
was never
another
more
thing
scared in my life.
from the books, like
He was
it like
perfect.
feeds off fear. So when you see him like drooling as he realizes he's about to, I mean,
Yeah.
that was masterful.
Yeah, no, it really. That was probably his best acted scene in the whole movie.
Spoiler
because
alert, that's in the first hour. so
I don't. Was it in the first hour? I really don't fucking know. The
can't
crazy thing is, the director said that his first cut was 4 hours, and he's going to do a director's cut for 4 hours.
Well, you can pencil me in for never watching that. Let me tell you.
Oh my
no,
God.
I thought one of the worst parts was the writing. I think one of you
Horrible.
guys alluded to it,
So-
especially towards the end.
And what we can
It's-
talk about too is the first one was the story was created by the guy that did True Detective. He has the writing credit on that.
Nicolezzo or Nick,
No,
yeah.
Kerry Fuka.
Oh,
whatever.
Fuka,
the
sure.
guy he's doing the new James Bond, but yeah, he's
Got
the
it.
he created season 1, the good season of True Detective.
Got it.
But yeah, so you can see the writing was so poor in this movie. The dialogue was terrible.
Yeah, I mean, it's a great story, and I think that maybe they thought it would just sort of carry itself by the nature of the story, and it didn't to the extent that most people I think would have liked. I stand by I found it satisfying.
That's fine, yeah, and
but-
that's fine. And
but I
do
get your
think
concerns.
It was, like I said, it was better than the 1990 Chapter 2, which is one of the worst movies ever made.
Yeah, that's
so
painful.
It's not saying much. But I do think if this movie was about 2 hours and 10 minutes, it would have been a lot easier to swallow the whole over jump scares. All
Sure.
that stuff would have been not as big of a deal. And if they took out the right 45 minutes, because
There's plenty of 45-minute
To take
chunks
out.
they could take out.
Most
Yeah.
of the kid stuff was unnecessary.
most of the, and I think all they needed for those kid things, because first of all, how are you going to be scared when you already know the kids are fine and alive? It
Yeah.
takes away all the suspense. It's just a quick shot, right? Quick shot of them as a kid, then the right back. So it's like,
Getting their token or whatever
yeah.
it is.
So
Well,
when Richie shows up and sees the Paul Bunyan thing, right? I think him just looking up as a kid, and then it flashes to him as an adult,
Yeah.
and then you do that whole
Yeah.
scene with him as an adult.
Yeah.
You don't.
Right.
It wasn't scary.
Yeah, I'll
Yeah.
tell you another kid part that really sucked. I'll just go back to it. It's the kid that was in the theater with us, the 3-year-old. He kept crying.
That-
I would be fucking crying too. I almost
Yeah.
was.
Yeah.
Sorry.
He was probably
I digress.
scared of the children's de-aged faces.
Yeah.
He was like, "That's not a kid.
That's just
That's a 48-year-old man."
It was. dopey dope at it.
Yeah.
Dude, I don't know what was going on with Ben, the heavyset child, but his face looked like a munchkin got squished, and his face was about half the length of his normal face.
He looked like Henry Cavill's upper lip in Justice League. It was fucking.
So was that entire scene in their clubhouse all done with that same technology, or was that? Are you sure that like part of that wasn't
I
like?
could tell that kid's face, the fatter kid's face.
100%.
So I could not pick up on that.
And it was
so that
making-
scene I thought was pretty good.
I actually thought I was like tripping out a little bit because it was making their mouths move really fast. It was like it was almost on fast forward. I was getting really confused.
I gotta
as
look
to
out
what
for
was
that because
happening.
I did not pick up on that as much as y'all did.
Yeah. It was literally like watching the film Doctor Strange. It's like the buildings were shifting,
Great
their
movie.
nose was popping out. It was fucking terrible.
Yeah.
But there was a lot of good stuff. There was a lot of good scenes. I would say I liked about an hour of it. I really wanted to fucking murder the other 2 hours.
Fair. So, ranking out of 10, would you recommend seeing it in the theater? Round the horn, Wolf. Let's start with you.
I'm gonna be pretty harsh here. I'm
Go.
gonna go with 2 out of 10.
Wow.
Whoa, I guess you're
What
gonna
did you
say-
give the first one?
I would give the first one like a 7 out of 10.
Okay.
Because I guess it was just because it was more fresh and
Yeah.
I didn't understand any of the storyline.
And this was
previously.
basically the same movie.
This took into account way more of the first one that again could have shaved off a lot of time. I would say if you're a horror fan, you absolutely must go see it in the theater if
you're into that
you've
sort
seen
of
it
thing.
part one. And if you're not a horror fan, come join the dark side with me. And I even get a deal out of this. I'm not watching another horror movie for 3 months. Let's do this.
There you go.
Perfect.
What do you think, Russo?
All right, so I think that if you liked part one, you will be, as Patty put it, satisfied
Heyo.
with part two.
There you go.
I don't really know how much I liked part one after rewatching it. I would say, yeah, it's like maybe like for a horror movie, a 7. There's still, again, it's super reliant on jump scares and CGI. So with this one, because it was almost all of that, and for how poorly the second 2 hours were, I mean, I didn't hate it. I would say a 5 out of 10.
So that's great. I literally was thinking on the way over here when we were driving. I'm guessing the Wolf's going to say 3 and Russo's going to say 5.
Wow.
So I'm just going
Pretty
to say
close.
I'm pretty
Take
solid.
that step up
So
there.
okay, so I think that all of the reviews that sort of said it was like a 7 out of 10 were pretty accurate. I'll give it a 7 out of 10, and I'll give it this one caveat. It is my favorite Stephen King book, favorite Stephen King horror book. My favorite Stephen King story is probably a tie between The Dark Tower and The Stand. So The Dark Tower is great, right? And they had that movie that came out, I think, 2 years ago, and it was like such a terrible bastardization of the story that, like, to anyone who's a fan of the story, you just never want to watch that movie because it utterly ruined it.
That was Michael B. Jordan too, right?
That was with Matthew McConaughey and Idris Elba. So this was like, and part of the reason why that movie sucks so much was because they took so many liberties with the story that just totally ruined it, right? This took some liberties that like made it a little bit lame, but overall kept like the general theme and concept of the book enough for me to say it was well worth it for me, for anyone who's a big fan of Stephen King. If you're young, like 10, 11, 12, I think it's still going to be really scary, and I would recommend seeing it in the theater.
Score
7.
7?
7
Yeah.
out of 10.
So
7 out of 10.
I will say this: it's not your score's not crazy, but I will say that you're bringing a lot of this like related to the book. I think when you take out the factor of this is the book that you love and you just judge it as this cartoony horror film, would you say the score goes down a little bit?
I mean, I don't think so, because it's a story about... So it's not like... It's not meant to be a horror story. It's meant to be kind of a sci-fi fantasy horror movie. And when you look at it through that context...
I disagree. It's only in the sense.
Okay.
The book, you are right.
Yeah, I mean, it's
are right.
horror genre.
This is 100% meant to be a horror film. It's the whole entire movie is jump scares. That's all it was.
Yeah.
Just
okay.
because the CGI is bad doesn't make it
horror
a
films
fantasy
are a little more nuanced now than they've been in the past, and this is different, right? Like kids, adults, a time like jump. There's a lot of concepts there that are just not present in a lot of other horror stories. So I think it's different. And because it's different, I judge it accordingly. I still think it's good. The CGI, I don't see it as much as you guys do, so I will keep paying more attention for that. I agree the ending was lame compared to the rest of it, but it was still good enough for me to say, like, yeah, that was a good movie. That was, like, enjoyable, told a good story.
If it were just a movie, you'd still give it 7 out of 10.
Yeah,
I
probably.
disagree. I don't think. I think you're just a little, because I know it's your favorite, and I know it's hard for you to separate it. I just think from the sense of, like, all right, so
it's hard for me to imagine separating it from the movie.
Exactly.
From the book.
I love it. And I think at the end of the day, you have to judge it as its own film. So, like, I break it down like this, right? The Dark Knight and Batman Begins, part 1, part 2, right? The Dark Knight doesn't need Batman Begins to be great. It Chapter 2 without It Chapter 1 is like a total shamble.
Well, you didn't ask about a standalone movie. You said, like, without knowing the book.
That's what I'm saying. No, I said forget about the book. Just the movie that we just watched, this 3-hour movie. Do you think it was as good as you're saying?
If I'd seen It Chapter 1 beforehand, like if I'd seen Chapter 1 or just It Chapter 2 by itself.
Not even factoring It Chapter 1 into it.
Well, it's not a standalone movie. It's a sequel.
So The Dark Knight was too, but I didn't factor Batman Begins into how I watched it.
Yeah, but new villains and new story, new bunch of characters. I think that's a little off. I think
you need part 1 for part 2.
I think your first point of, like, if these two movies were
Star Wars
without
and
a book,
Empire Strikes Back, you can literally watch Empire without having seen the first one and be there. 100% you can.
If you hadn't seen the first,
it's its own story.
But it's
definite stories, but there's so much character development for Star Wars that you love C-3PO.
Your first question was,
you see him in Empire.
Yeah, your first question was, without, like, the book, would you think it's still good enough for the movie? I can answer that question because with it, like Chapter 1 and It Chapter 2, if I had not read the book, I would probably lower my rating of It Chapter 2. Okay? Not by much, but
2 points,
like half a point, 1 point, maybe something like that,
okay.
right? But I don't think you can look at it without having watched the first part. I don't think people are going to the theaters to watch this without the first part. You have to look at them combined.
I guess that's not really my point. I don't know what exactly my point is. I'm just saying in the sense of the pacing of the movie.
No, I think I understand what you're trying to say. It Chapter 2 is a fucking garbage movie. It just is.
Yeah,
that's the way I felt.
Like I said,
so many
it
ways.
just didn't deliver. Like, it almost made me not like Chapter 1 even more. Like, it's just it becomes frustrating. Again, there was definitely some really awesome scenes in it. Overall, there's going to be a lot of people that like it, and I will say that, especially people if you like jump scares and you really don't really care about the plot. It's an above average horror movie because that's all it is. It's just jump scares for 3 hours. So, like, some people and some people really like that type of scary, which is totally fine. I'm a little over it at this point. I just think it, especially when you're sitting there over and over for a 90-minute movie, why not? But for a 3-hour movie,
I think it's
too
stupid too.
98.
But guys, of course, always check us out on Instagram and Twitter at RMR Podcast. Send us an email, rmrpodcast.com. Thank you for listening, as always. We love you. See you guys.
All right. Later.
Bye.
Bye.
Real movie reviews.